Hello and welcome to today's episode of Canadian Challenge Tales. We're joined by Katherine Langlais, all the way from New Brunswick. How are you doing today, Katherine?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm excellent. Really appreciate you joining us today. I know I want to talk a little about the Canadian Challenge that you competed in this past year in the 10-dog event,
Yep.
but we're going to rewind a little back towards when you first got started mushing. Do you have a first experience mushing or your first memory or maybe a good one or a bad one that you might be able to share with us?
Well, first experience, I was about 7 years old, and there was this guy from down home that had, down home is to the Gaspé Coast, that had some sled dogs, and I was always drawn to, I was always drawn to animals, and I was especially drawn to Siberians. And yeah, I went on a dog sled ride with him, and dreamt of it ever since. So that's my first experience.
Wow. So how did you get from 7 years old knowing you wanted to have sled dogs to, the kennel that you have today? Did you start with a couple or did you jump right in with a full team?
Well, I adopted my first lead dog when I was 13 or 14. Her name was Saka, and she was a retired lead dog. So I took her and I'd start canicross with her. So every day I'd take her out for a walk or for a run. And she just kept the dream on going just with one dog. And then eventually I went, always keeping with the idea of that dream of having a team of dogs. I had applied to work in a tourism kennel for Norman Kazava. He ran the quest a few times. He was in Laurentians, and started working for him. And that's when I met Remy, where we started dating back then, about 15 years ago. And we both had the same idea of having dogs. And so we decided we'd take in 6 dogs and started off with just a mix of Alaskan hounds and some Alaskan huskies, and everybody kind of wanted to give us dogs left and right. And we started with 6, and then we had 10, and then we had 14, and then so that's how it goes. So yeah, that was the beginning of it all.
Yeah, it's amazing how quickly the numbers can climb
Oh yeah,
once you
absolutely.
realize what you want to do with it.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's the thing. And at first, we were just in tourism, so we loved, we just loved dogs, right? So we had no notion at that time if we wanted Alaskan Huskies, Alaskan Hounds, if we wanted Siberians. So we kind of had a mix of it all. And then when we figured that we did want to race, then definitely we kind of went more into distance dogs. So
Excellent. So do you have a memory from your first race or a particular dog that you had along the ride for those first ones?
Oh, my first race was a 30-mile race in Eagle Lake, and it was very eventful. We had, this was the beginning, so we had a mix of Alaskan Hounds and Alaskan, I'd call them Alaskan Huskies, but they were Malamute mixed with the Alaskan Hounds that we had. So they were very, very slow but tough, very strong dogs. And I'm not a very big person. Weigh in at about 115, 120 pounds, and they would drag me around all over the place. So my lead dogs, at one point, I was just at the end of that turnaround for like the 15-mile bend to come back and do our 30 miles. And someone in front of me had taken the wrong trail. So I had stopped my sled and went to put my dogs to go in the right direction. And there were ski jors there. And anyways, they were just on the side. And for some reason, my dogs just wanted to continue and take the wrong trail. So at one point, they just did a 180 and looped back towards, the start of the race, and broke my anchor. And my other anchor was just like dragging in the ground. And so I didn't want to, what's the number one rule when you're on a sled is not to leave go of the sled. So I was just dragging on the side on my sled. At this point, it was about a mile into it, and I couldn't get the dogs back up, trying to get my anchor out. And yeah, I as soon as I came to the finish line, they said, you made it in good time. You made it in good time. And I was like, well, no, because I didn't go to the end of the loop. I would have made good time, but my dogs never, wanted to take the right trail. So I disqualified myself. So that was my first experience, breaking my anchor and breaking the line, and everything just didn't work out for me there. So yeah, that was my first experience.
And yet somehow you continued on
Oh yeah,
to
that doesn't
future
phase me.
races and didn't deter you in any way.
No, no,
How
it's these experiences that make you who you are, right? And these dogs were excellent, excellent sled dogs. It's just that they weren't fast dogs. They were just really good, strong towing dogs. Um, so yeah, they definitely made me a little bit more vigilant to how to use my weight, I guess, and because you had to be really really strong, and they made me more. Yeah, they made me a part of who I am today. So it didn't deter me at all from racing.
Yeah, one, it sounds like it was a good early lesson, one you definitely won't forget.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. It was a laugh and a half. I had fun. I had one of the mushers on the passed me on the side, Becky Tucker. She's a good musher from the area, and she passed, and she's like, "Are you all right?" I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna get up eventually." So it's just experiences.
Yeah, exactly. And sounds like, you're able to turn something that
I
others may take as
negative.
a negative and turn into a positive.
Oh yeah. Well, in every race, there's always something or every run, there's always something that can or that does happen. So you always got to turn the negatives into positives and learn from all of our experiences.
Excellent. So let's shift a little then and look at some positive experiences from the Canadian Challenge this year. I know we had a really cold start,
Hmm.
in the minus 30 something for the start line. Can you give the fans a little insight in your routine or process for the start of the race? Like how you prepare, from the time you arrive at the start line in the parking lot until you actually take off out of the chute?
Yeah, for me, it's all about mindset. I guess for a lot of mushers, it's all about mindset. And as soon as I get to the to the race, I kind of fall in the zone where I'm in my own little world and I don't like much distractions just because I want to make sure you kind of go through everything that you need and then you double check and triple check and quadruple check and you're always wondering, oh, am I going to miss anything? Because you have all your checkpoint bags, right? So you always I leave extra gear in there, but I still want to make sure that I have extras in my sled and I'm not going to miss anything. And my fear is always to miss something, so that's why I kind of like sticking to my own little world and kind of go through things routinely. And I have this way of going about things. So yeah, and I just like to be one on one with my dogs. They know that we're getting ready and that we're getting hyped up, and I kind of just try and be as chill as possible so that they don't feed too much off of that energy, because I think, yeah, we're all nervous, but that's also our time to just lay low and think about what's coming up and have our game plan just go as it comes. So that's pretty much how it goes whenever I arrive at a race.
Excellent. And so, how do you, like, at what point do you bring the dogs out? Are you somebody that likes to get them out early so they can, hang out a
No,
little bit, or you like to keep them in the truck as long
I
as
like to
possible and pull them at the last minute?
I definitely like to keep them in the truck. I'll take them out as soon as I get there, just so they can relieve themselves. But I definitely put them back in the truck because I don't know if you've seen our dogs, but they're very very vocal at the start line or at hookup or in many places in the yard. So basically, whenever I get there, I'll take them out and then I'll put them back in the truck, and I'll take them just a few moments, about 20 minutes, half an hour before putting them on the line, just get them ready, get their harnesses on, booties on, and ready to be on. So they know, because they have trouble. A few of them, a few of my key players, they haven't learned to keep it cool yet. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
there's
just
a little bit of excitement
yeah,
especially when you travel. I mean, as far as you did for the
definitely
Canadian Challenge, they got a long
long
couple of
haul.
days of driving and just probably some days off in advance. So,
Mhm,
they always seem like everybody's ready to go. So
mhm,
after you come out of the start line and you're trying to keep the dogs from, going too fast and getting out of control, at
mhm.
what point in that first leg of the race, do you feel like they start to calm down and you start to find that rhythm that's going to take you, all the way to the finish?
Really, it's for me, it's often after the first run. After the first 25, 30 miles or so, they start to get in the groove, but it's really after I'm always right until the first checkpoint. I'm always kind of trying to pace them because they always want to, you know, give it a little bit extra, that extra that I don't want them to give. um, so yeah, it's really after the first checkpoint that they get in the groove, they get into their gameplay there.
Right. And so after that first checkpoint this year, then the second leg of the journey, was a real cold run
Hmm.
into La Ronge. I think we had some temperatures at minus 46 or minus
Very
47.
good. Yeah.
How did you, how do you stay mentally positive? How do you work off that cold, and how do you keep the dogs from being too affected by that?
I didn't see my dogs being affected by the cold at all. We have rather cold temperatures here as well, so they've seen really cold temperatures, so they weren't phased by that cold. And we did put put coats on them as well, so they were protected from the wind and the cold. So my dogs weren't phased at all. And for I think as a team we're all determined, and there's something about me is I'm very stubborn, maybe a little too much at times, and and mentally strong. So I didn't feel the cold in the sense that I kept moving. And I mean, as a musher of a dog team, we are a team. So I'm a part of the team. So we're all working together. So there's not one moment where I'm not working with them. So I'm always constantly in motion. So I didn't get cold at all. My only time where I did feel the cold was on my hands at the as soon as I got into La Rouge, because I forgot. I guess I was sleep deprived a bit, and I forgot to put my gloves on, and they were in my cooler, and I didn't feel like taking them out. So while I was unzipping my sled bag, I was kind of like telling myself, yeah, I should have put them in my jacket before. But that was a lesson learned. But otherwise, that's pretty much it. I didn't feel the cold at all, and neither did my dogs. We just, for as long as we're well equipped for it, and we're conscious of the temperatures that we're dealing with, it's not a problem.
Oh, fantastic. So after a big rest in La Ronge, I know we had a longer rest and some food for you and the dogs. And then it was an up to Mississippi and back, across a few lakes and the portages. And
Uh-huh.
there were some reports of northern lights. Did you experience that on those, or can you share a little about that section of the trail?
I absolutely loved the portages. That's my type of terrain. That's the type of trail that I love. Whenever we have like a lot of switchbacks and all going up and downhill, it's fun and it's invigorating. And when the Northern Lights came out, I kind of just came out from the portage and came onto one of the lakes because there's a lot of lakes out there. And I looked up and I seen like at a distance what I thought was mountains. Like, can't be mountains. Like, what is going on here? Because it was just like, it wasn't. I didn't have any greens or anything there. It was just some little type of color in the sky. But I thought it was mountains, and I was trying to figure it out. What is this? And it's impossible. There's no mountains here. And then all of a sudden, like it seems like I just blinked my eye, and I look up again, and it's all hues of greens and yellows and reds and the nicest array of northern lights that I was going to say that I've ever seen, but it was my first time seeing them. And they're set in my memory forever because I've always wanted to see northern lights. When Remy ran the quest, I was always outside trying to see northern lights, and I've never seen any. And that was my most beautiful array that I couldn't have any better than that, really. So I was told that when you have red in them as well, it's very rare. So I was happy to see that. It's magical, really. There's
Yeah,
no words. There's no words.
exactly. We were able to spot them a little from the checkpoint in Mississippi, and I mentioned to a few that this is the reward
Mm.
for the
Mhm.
cold that we had to start with and the days beforehand,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Because cold weather usually clear skies, which gives you a better chance to see them,
Hmm.
which is always a great thing and something everybody enjoys.
Absolutely.
So as you got through Mississippi, made it all the way back to La Ronge again, and you get to the finish line, second place, just under an hour behind the winner, Jesse. How do you feel after you finished? Are you, ready to go back out and do some more? Or are you happy and proud that the dogs have done what they did? Or what's the feeling after you finish this?
The feeling is not when you finish. The feeling is really all along. I think no matter the distance that you run, there's always, towards the first checkpoint you're looking at your dog team and you're kind of like, it's gonna switch things around. Oh, these guys are doing good, or oh, this one's working too hard. Have you're always feeling something towards your dogs, right? And towards the end game, for me, it's often like in the last, I'd say 15 to 10 to 15 miles from the finish, you're contemplating everything that you've been through throughout the whole race, and you're thanking your dogs for working so hard and for being so good, and doing everything so efficiently and perfectly. And so I praise them all along, and I talk to them, and there's nothing. Again, I'm short for words for that feeling. I can't express it because you're just in awe of your dogs all along. So, but those last 10 to 15 miles is when everything comes together and you kind of contemplate and realize and congratulate, and you live in that moment. And that's what's great about mushing, about racing, is that you're in that moment and there's nothing else in the world but you and your dog team. And that's what crosses my mind right to the finish line. At the finish line, I'm just still in that moment, but it's really in that last 15 to 10 to 15 miles that you're living all those emotions. Well, I'm living all those emotions anyways.
That sounds inspiring to me. Like, it makes me excited about running dogs, want to go out and do it. Just
Yeah.
hearing you talk about it that way and how passionate you are about this, I
Mhm.
think is something that a lot of other people, certainly should be striving for.
Absolutely.
It's easy to pick on, a really good leader, which, I mean, obviously you have, but was there a particular dog that may have stood out? Maybe a young dog, that was relatively new to the team that exceeded expectations, or one that stood out to you during the race?
Oh, a few. There's not just one, I guess. Well, we have a relatively, well, I want to say a relatively young team, but they're turning 5 this year. But it's just because of COVID, everything kind of, you know, made things different. So we ran races at home those 2 years, but there wasn't any races out east, right? So I guess I should start there. So we had no idea how, other than running what we'd say is like simulated races at home of 200 miles, we had no way of knowing exactly how good these young dogs were. So it's really throughout our winter that we saw what we had. And I guess I have this one little dog named Niagara, um, that was in my team throughout the races that I did this winter. And at the challenge, she blew my mind. She's this small little, she probably weighs about 43 pounds, 40, maybe 45 when she's a little thicker. And, uh, and she just goes and goes and goes. I call her my reining horse because she just turns and turns and turns all the time. And she can spin like on a 10 cents. She'll spin like crazy, like a really good reining horse. And she has a lot of energy. And at the challenge, she gave her 150% from the beginning to the end, and she was barking all her way to the finish line. So I guess she would be the one dog that kind of shined bright, but every single one did. So it's kind of hard. I don't want to really pinpoint one. I had Solo, that was my lead dog, from beginning to end, and he was himself. I mean, he's always giving his 100%, and he's always great, always listening to everything, every command, never a flaw. Super dog. I had Copper, which was a new dog from this winter. That she shined, above what I thought I had as a dog. We bonded at this race, and I'm in awe, again about her. And Pegbo was another one that was in my team that he's a really big boy, so I was kind of unsure about him because of his size. And wow, like he ended up being, if not the best dog in the team. So there's yeah, it's hard. I can't pinpoint one dog because I don't think it's fair. They're all good.
Well, and
So
there's
yeah.
such great athletes to be able
Oh
to do
yeah,
what they do, and that is something I don't think anyone can talk enough about how
absolutely.
amazing the dogs are that they can do this, and not just that they can, but that they want to.
They
Right?
want
That's a lot
to.
of things I try to explain to people that don't know mushing or have just getting into it is just to walk into a dog yard or the start of a race when the harnesses come out and the dogs know they're going to run.
Hmm.
Their enthusiasm is infectious,
Absolutely,
and
absolutely.
it's just one of these things that I know it's tough to narrow it down to one. It's that's why it's a whole team, and there's the musher included are trying to you know go along this wonderful journey.
That's it. We all bring something to the plate, and if you take away a piece, there's something missing. So that's why I can't just pinpoint one. I spoke about a few dogs, but every single one on my team, they all brought something that was needed. So yeah, so I can't. They were all great.
That's what's great about what we're trying to do here is help our fans understand some of this and get to learn a little more about the dogs, where they can get to hear the story about how this dog did well or that one, or how they somehow managed to keep their momentum and their strength through at 200 miles. So one of the questions we have from social media for you comes from Rue Likes Bones, and they'd like to know how mushers with demanding day jobs manage care of their entire teams. And I know you're busy a lot in the veterinarian industry. Can you share a little about how that works for you?
Really, we don't have a life. We're lucky to have family and friends that understand how our dogs are important to us. We don't. I'll speak for myself. I don't. I don't go out. I don't. I don't go to restaurants. I don't. I'm not into anything other than my dogs and my daughter. But my dogs take all of my time when I'm not working. So there's nothing else that I want to do uh, than be with my dogs and to perfect myself with my dogs. And it's a necessity for me as well as I'm always thinking about them and how to do what's best for them all of the time. And for me, I'll probably tell everyone that how bad I am at this because I would just want the best for them all the time, and I'm always thinking about how to change things to make it better for them. So basically, in the summertime, we're fixing our kennels better. We're making things better for them. And in the wintertime, well, fall, I mean, there's training, so we'll go out early mornings or late nights. And then wintertime is the same thing. My weekends are taken, my weeknights are taken for them. So that's how we're able to deal. Well, that's how I'm able to deal with having a full time job and having a team of sled dogs. Is I don't do anything. I don't do anything other than be with those I prefer to be with. So, and it's not that I don't like my family and friends, just to make a point clear. It's just that I am, there's one thing about mushing, and it's that it's addicting. It's addictive, I should say. And that's all you want to do is you get addicted to this, to being with your dogs and being in the silence of being outdoors in the wilderness, about being at, I can't say it other than being at peace, and that freedom that it brings you, to just freedom of spirit, to just be with them and to feel serene in what you're doing. And there's nothing more beautiful. And you said I do work in the veterinary field, and I see dogs every day, but there is nothing more beautiful than a working dog, in the sense that there's no bond that's stronger than someone who works with their dogs. So that's I think is part of the reason why it's addictive, is because we spend so much time with them. We have spent so many hours working with them, that you grow this bond, in the sense that they are completely given to us and we are completely given to them. So that's it.
So are you running, like, let's look at fall training where you have to go early morning? Are you taking dogs out before you go to work?
Yes.
Wow, I guess that means little sleep for you.
Yeah, we don't sleep much. Well, I don't sleep much because Remy works. He's a seasonal worker. He's a pilot up north, so he's gone 3 to 4 weeks at a time. So while he's gone, I my only way to be able to keep the training going is to go out, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, or if temperatures permit it, I'll go out later at night, around 8 o'clock or so, if it wasn't too hot in the daytime. So yeah, or luckily enough, it's not long miles in the summertime, or early autumn. So I'm lucky that way to be able to do that.
Yeah, and to do stretches like that weeks at a time, without Remy to help you, that's that's certainly demanding.
Well, it's
Um,
demanding, but I did say earlier that I was very determined and stubborn.
well, that's
So it's
and it sounds like your dogs are better for it. That
absolutely,
personality, you're fit well together for the team.
we do.
So, can you share a little about your race plans for the upcoming season?
We're not sure really. We're really looking into it because, as I said earlier, we have a rather young. Well, I want to say inexperienced team. So we do have our goal on the Iditarod in the years coming, but in the year coming, or 2 years coming, but we're not quite sure yet. We're just going to continue our training schedule and see how the dogs are taking it, because we have a lot of 2-year-olds this year. So we'll see what they give, what they can give, how mentally strong they are, and take it from there. So we really don't have a plan as of yet. We kind of shift back and forth and back and forth a few times, um, to what we want to do, but we haven't really, said, okay, this is what we're doing this winter. So I can't share more than that yet.
Okay,
Mhm.
that's fine. I know in the past you've been, uh, I'll say, regulars at the Can-Am race,
Oh,
just
definitely.
across the border in Maine. I
Hmm.
know the Bear Grease,
Hmm.
as well as us here at the Canadian Challenge. So I'm sure any race would be lucky to have you or Remy or both involved. So when you make your decisions, is there a way that your fans can follow you on social media or your website? Can you tell them how to find you so they can follow along once you have made a decision?
Yeah, they can follow us on our Facebook page. It's Chanel Akada Kennel. So we update regularly in the when it's training season. So we'll be setting our dates straight in the coming months on that page, and we do have a web page as well. It's called akata.org, so it'll be shared on there as well.
Excellent. We'll make sure to include that information in the show notes below so anybody can follow along with Catherine and Remy and their journey with their sled dogs in New Brunswick. I really appreciate you joining us today on the podcast. It was a real pleasure and inspiring, is how I would explain it. For anybody who's looking to get in touch with Katherine. Like I said, check the show notes, their Facebook page. Katherine, anybody you'd like to thank? Maybe somebody that's helped at the kennel or a sponsor before we go?
Well, I think I'd like to thank everybody really that has showed us support along the way. We have a good fan base that follows us throughout all our races. So I want to thank them for following us because they always give us, not every race is easy. So they always give us that extra little, go getter. So it's always nice to read the comments and have some positive thoughts before and during or after a race. It's always nice. So I'd like to thank them. And I'd like to thank our friends and family because, like I said earlier, we kind of spend most of our time or all of our time with our dogs, and we can't move around, right? Because we have so many dogs that we have to stay home all the time. So I'm thankful for our friends and family to come and see us at home and to forgive us for having this crazy lifestyle, and to our sponsors to be behind us, and it gives us a sense of, kind of like acknowledgement that we're on the right path, and that they see and they feel, or they they enjoy seeing us do what we dream about doing. And dreams are not always easy, so having sponsors behind is giving us that extra push at times. So I'd like to thank all of these people.
Wonderful. And I encourage anyone who wants to follow along with Katherine or Remy. Remy will be joining us for the next episode after this one with Katherine. So you'll be able to get his stories from the trail as well out in New Brunswick. Anybody looking to follow along on the Canadian Challenge, you can find us at CanadianChallenge.com, as well as our Facebook or Twitter page for any updates along the way. And any volunteers that might be looking to help out, whether you're able to help at the race, beforehand, or even from somewhere not here in Saskatchewan, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to let you get involved in the race. Katherine, I want to thank you again for joining us today. And thanks to everyone that listened. If you want to follow along with subscribe to the podcast with Dogworks Radio, we'd be happy to have you. Thanks again.
Thank you.